Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reiki in Real Life. So, I have the pleasure of being here with Katie. Should I call you Sullivan now?
Well, that's Eades is the energy I'm still channeling, but
All
if you
right,
prefer
Katie
like
Eades.
Eades Sullivan, I'll take that.
All right, I'm here with Katie Eades Sullivan, the owner of Owl Professional Coaching. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here. You've always been
Um,
on my podcast. I never get to be on
I
yours.
know this is so exciting. So, I wanted to chat with you today about your experience with Reiki. You're a really fun one to talk to. I've been really looking forward to talking to you because you are like my guinea pig and we've tried some really cool stuff together. Um, so let's just go ahead and start before we had done the Reiki circle together. Had you ever experienced Reiki prior to that?
Not really. My parents have a massage therapist they've been going to for decades, and she is a Reiki practitioner. So I suppose when I've had a massage that she's been aware of my chakras, but I've never gone in somewhere just to have Reiki. So that was fun for me too.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your first experience. What was it like for you?
So I didn't have any idea what it would be like. So if you're like me and you can't visualize something until you've had the experience, I you touch people touch you when you have the Reiki. So that was really cool for me. Also, we were in a meditative state in that group session with the sound bowl, and so it was interesting just to be aware of even energies that were moving through the field. And I have a very busy head, as I'm sure you know. So, what was so fascinating for me is around the time that you came over to do some of the Reiki, in my head, I felt like my great Aunt Mary and I were having a little conversation, and she's passed away. And I suppose she really was there. It would be my takeaway after my next experience with you. In that moment, it's just like, oh, this is kind of funny. Like we shared a little joke about how even when she couldn't see that she knew she asked me if I was PG pregnant and I was just overweight. And so like we had like a little joke about that and like a
Oh,
little bit
that's
of
funny.
like she was always worried I might go crazy because there was mental health stuff on her side of the family, even though my grandfather is adopted and so not
Hmm.
biologically related. So we had a little joke about that too. Um, but what was even more impactful was afterwards when the lights came on and I came back into my body, I felt like myself. I felt like someone that I hadn't been for a while. And then you shared because I asked, I'm like, ooh, what was my energy like? I'm so curious. And you mentioned this dark energy that sort of left as you did the Reiki. And I did. I just felt amazing. I don't know how else to explain it. I felt like a cloud, like something that wasn't mine got to leave. And I don't know. It's been a really long time since I felt like that before.
I love how you describe that because that's really a great way to describe it. And it's a hard thing, like you said, to understand what that means until you experience it for yourself. Because like, you can say that, like, oh, I just feel like me again, but to actually experience feeling like yourself again is huge. And you being who you are, you also had kind of like data to back that up. So you
Yeah.
were wearing a really cool device that I thought was your own personal music, but it wasn't.
Right. I forgot about the heart math. So when I went in, like a good scientist that I am, I wanted to wear my heart math monitor. So I'm certified in activating the heart of teens. And heart math is measuring your HRV, which is your brain and your heart in sync. And anything, they call it coherence. Athletes call it flow state. So I had the monitor on before and I was able to see where I was. And then I reset it and used it just for the whole experience. And so my average, I think, was in three, which anything above a one is considered some coherence. Anything above a two is nice coherence. And it would have been interesting to see the different spikes and like what was when I was thinking about having that conversation with my great aunt. Like, was I in
Yeah.
a seven or eight? Like, but really it's letting me know like how much flow I'm having and how much there's connection. And so perhaps what I just felt in that moment, even from a science point, if I was to use that language, was just an like a return to coherence. Maybe there was a signal between my heart and brain that hasn't been connected in a while, and whatever energetic movement happened in that small amount of time just allowed for that flow to show up again.
Yeah, what was your number during the experience?
Well, I had my eyes closed, so I just had the average afterwards of 3.
Oh,
When we
okay.
were sitting there beforehand and before we all laid down and closed our eyes, there were times it was up to 5. What was really cool for me was watching you or hearing you share your story of Reiki. That was the first time I had heard about your weight loss experience. I knew there was some stress, but I hadn't heard that. And that was like at a 6 or 7. There was a lot of coherence. And we know that the highest vibration is not joy, it's authenticity. And so, what I can really describe there is like that authenticity as you were sharing that story also showed up.
That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing. So, fast forward. So, you ended up booking a session during that circle. So, tell us about your first session.
Yeah. So, it was so impactful that I fought all the technology problems I had and was able to close the deal and have a session with you the very next day. Um,
She's not lying. We had all kinds of issues, but it's fine. We're both,
And if you know me, like I won't even follow through on an Amazon deal if there's something goes wrong. So like to be able to be that persistent, like there was something there that I just felt called to. And so anyone, if you've ever been Reiki curious, you'll know when the right time is for you. And even if something is saying trying to block you, you'll make it happen. Um, and that was a very powerful experience as well for me. I wanted to be a good student, so I took your directions of quieting my mind quite literally. I did appreciate that you said, this is really the quietest I've ever seen you.
it's true.
And and it was a profound experience when I got to that place of sobbing and to be able to describe so back to my mind, and now all of a sudden I feel my mom. And I had what went from like a funny conversation with my great aunt, and this space just felt almost like I was going back to, you were touching my right hand at the time, and so I just thought there's something that they're healing in my hand, right? So my science comes in and I'm like, oh, I know I was ripped out of the womb because I was a C-section, like whatever reason, like I was back in the, like coming out of the womb, and like felt like maybe my hand was hurt, maybe the doctor like grabbed me by the hand, like why am I feeling this, like what stress am I holding in my right hand? Because it is hard for my logic brain to not want to start to move into that space. And the conversation that I had with my mom was more of like, I didn't want her to leave. And she said, "Oh," and when she said leave, for some reason in my mind, I felt like she was leaving forever, meaning she wouldn't come visit me again, and her energy wouldn't be around, and she was going away. Maybe she is, I don't know. Um, and so to have you describe what was happening on your end of that experience, since we're not talking and we don't talk until the very end. And that was the only point in that entire session where I felt tears and sobbing and release and wasn't really sure what it was about.
Yeah, it was fascinating because this has actually never happened to me either until this time. I've had a couple of interesting experiences since, but during Katie's session, exactly what she's describing, as I approached her right hand, I felt like this overwhelming sense that her mother was with me at the time. I thought it was just on my end. So I felt, and again, this has never happened. So I didn't really know. I was like, I mean, is this really happening? Like, almost felt as if she was in my body and just asking me, she was essentially using me to feel holding your hand again. She wanted me to hold your hand one more time. And that's what I kept feeling and thinking. And then I also was getting emotional. Typically, I might feel an emotion, but to actually cry that's the only time that's ever happened. And it was almost like I was feeling her because, like Reiki, we're being used as the vessel. So it's us feeling other energy. I've just never felt it like in the form of a human before. So it was very interesting. And it was funny because I remember telling myself, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to tell her this? Like, I don't even know what to say. And then but the beautiful part was that I didn't have to. Like as soon as you woke up and we started talking, like that was the first thing you shared and it was the first thing I shared. I was like, "Oh my God, you're right." Um she was clearly with us that day. So her energy, I do believe, is very much present. Um, whether it stays, in
I
one
assume the
place, that
reason
I don't
she said
know.
she had to go is so she could give you your body back.
Possibly.
Tell
Yeah.
me
I
what
mean,
I
she's
do
like, okay,
now
I can.
because I heard her like say, "Oh no, honey, like not forever." Like that was the phrase I heard.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Um, yeah, what a beautiful experience. I was so privileged that we got to experience that together. Um, and then I also wanted to talk to you about, we did something really cool. Um, that I had never done before. So Katie again is a business owner. She owns her own coaching company, and I had the opportunity to Reiki her home office, home, and part business. I learned a few lessons that day. I learned 3 hours to Reiki something is a long time. But if you could share a little bit about your experience with that, and then anything that's been happening since that day.
Yes. Before I do that, I wanted to share a little bit about what was the integration. So after I had that session with you, for people that do know me, the ADHD is very busy. And for the week after that experience, I meditated every single day for my 10 minutes and did my card pull and just really felt so much lighter and more focused and more back to that thing of being me.
I love that.
And it's also how I know that there's still some work to be done for myself. And I am looking forward to working a little bit more with you on that and seeing perhaps how I start to manage my own energy. Because part of what I believe in coaching is like this is not a hamster wheel, right? We want you to be able to step off with all your tools and go and run your own wheel. And so I'm looking forward to it's not a one and done, I guess, is kind of what I want to share. But it
Right.
was profound. It was a big shift for me and also just having like seeing is believing is a phrase that people are familiar with, and then when you recognize that the human eye can only see certain so much, you recognize that doesn't really mean anything, but it for this case it was almost like hearing and having the experience was believing. People talk about hearing voices and they're like their ancestors and people talking to them, and now I know what that feels like. It's almost like I can discern now between when I'm meditating, is it, amygdala, anxious Katie? Is it someone else providing some insights for me? So that was my takeaway from the individual session.
Yeah, I really appreciate you keeping me on task there and sharing that with us because I feel like that is really important. Is like I've had a few other experiences, and I think that people think that it's, like you said, one and done. That's a perfect way to describe it. And that's not what Reiki is. I mean, I work on myself every single day. Um, so I mean it's a constant journey, it's a constant thing. It's like any other habit that you build into your life. Like, we don't just get one massage in our life and say, oh, that's it. My muscles are good to go, so I mean I really appreciate you making that point.
Yeah. A lot of times people will ask me, who's your coach? Every coach I know has a coach. And I always laugh and I'm like, well, if I was a nutritionist, I wouldn't get a nutritionist. I would nutritionist myself.
Right. Right, good point.
And I had a woman on my podcast who talked about energetic entities, and that is what we are experiencing every time we come into a room with more than one person. There's this energetic entity that gets created, and so energy is coming with you and it's leaving, and so
Hmm.
that brings you right into the home, right? Why not go? Not just am I having my own energy that I give off and also receive, but we also have that in our house. So that was a really fun experience. I'm glad I got to be your first one and have that with you. Um, it was fascinating to hear what the house wanted. And this one is one of those synchronicities. So I, as a true experimenter, this one is hard for me because the day that you showed up to do Reiki, the house wanted the windows open. The house's request was it wanted to breathe and it wanted things to come in and come out. And from numerology, which, if you don't know, my dad is a leading numerologist in Sterling,
Hmm.
Illinois. This is a house number 5, and it is about coming and going and being like it's never, there's not stability in a five house. There's always movement happening. But the day that you showed up was the first time in months that it wasn't 90 degrees.
That is true. It was beautiful. It was beautiful outside.
It was. It was 75 degrees. I know because Dan, after you left, said, you know what? It's only going to be 75 today. Why don't we open the windows? He was more about saving on money than it was about the house making a request. But as the synchronicity of the universe would have it, because we could have done Reiki in the house any day and maybe it would have asked the same thing. And I would have said, no, it's 90 degrees.
Right.
But we didn't. We chose not only that, but we chose it for the week of fake fall here in Tennessee, where
Yes.
the windows were open all week. And
That's
then
awesome.
yes, and then to have that other request of clearing energy every single client. When I first heard that request from the house, I thought, whew, like some days I'm seeing 16 people. You want me to light sage and like say a prayer in between every single one of those clients? And it was helpful to kind of expand what that might mean. I do have like a tuning fork so I can hit that and just clear some energetic space. I have the sage I can burn.
Yeah.
I have this, and you had mentioned in the follow up the feather, like feathering.
Yep.
And one of those things I also don't know what it means, but I should. When a falcon leaves a feather in your yard and they've never, like, we have so many birds on this property, and
Yeah.
three feathers have we ever received from birds. This is the big one that I received. And it was after I came back. It's almost like the falcon was like, hey, I miss you. Let me leave you a little
Oh,
feather so that you come back. We had been gone for like just for a weekend. When I came back, I
yeah.
found a giant feather. So I've been using that with the sage. And as the universe would have it, yesterday I had my entire morning. I only had five clients and they were all back to back to back to back to back. I'm used to having like 7 a.m.s and 9 a.m.s. And as the fates would have it, also since we've done Reiki on the house, I have not had any but one of those in the early morning. And the it's hard to know, is it because I've had fewer clients because of the holiday weekends the last few weeks,
Right.
or is it because I'm doing the clearings, is it because I'm doing the energetic stuff? But I always take directions, and I don't remember between every single client, but for the most part I'll even do a mute in my, and I'll ding the thing really quick before I go into a client, just to kind of move the energies around.
I love
And
that.
um I don't this is where it gets hard for me because I always want to know, like, how do I feel differently? Am I noticing the energies differently? Am I
Right.
showing up differently for my clients? And this one's hard because I am used to having so many, that even having, am I less drained because I'm clearing between clients?
Right.
Is it really
Yeah.
about me? Is it just supposed to be the energy in the room?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I have been using that instruction to continue to, I think the description you had was the dragonfly that was trying to open its wings. And I loved the synchronicity of, while you were doing that, I went on a walk on the property and I saw two dragonflies that kept following me around. And then this week I had a client share that she clips a little dragonfly onto her hat and then the mosquitoes don't bite her. So the dragonfly continues to show up in different ways for
Wow.
me. And also that's such a gardening trick and that's a real thing. And I had no idea. So
I didn't know that either. So,
buying a bunch of plastic dragonflies now
yeah.
online, and I will be
I'm gonna
handing them
start
out at,
pinning them onto my kid.
yeah, like, so when you think about like going outside for Halloween, for example, and like, oh, we'll just pin dragonflies on everybody and we'll
Perfect.
watch that work. So that was kind of fun to see that continue to show up. Um, so that was my experience with the house.
Well, that's exciting. And that there's a couple things I want to say to that. First of all, like kudos to you for taking the instruction and following through with that. And it really doesn't have to be something um large and magnificent. It doesn't have to be the burning of the sage. Like even just setting an intention in between each person. And you can just do that very quickly if you want to write it down so it feels more impactful for you, fine. If you just want to say it, that's fine too. But um because it doesn't always have to be a big production. And that's the one thing about Reiki too, is like, yes, we do one-to-one sessions, but just taking a small minute out of your day or a couple minutes out of your day, if that's what you have, if you have 30 seconds to just breathe and you take those 30 seconds to breathe, that is going to be more impactful than you imagine, like even small little habits. So I appreciate you um staying consistent with that and bringing that up. Um And then also, the one thing wanted to say also about the house is like, this was my first time doing this, right? So I didn't know what was going to happen. And it's been fascinating that the energy in a house shows up just like an energy in a person. So, like, there were areas of the house that were stagnant. There were areas of the house that, like, started moving more quickly than others. There were the personalities, I guess, in each because like each person shows up differently, their energy just presents itself in a slightly different manner. It was the same way in your home, like your room versus Dan's room versus the downstairs area were totally different energies. And I just found that absolutely fascinating that, I mean, because it makes sense, right? Because there were people in there. There were people in there before you lived there. I'm sure there were guests there. I'm sure there have been animals and all kinds of things that have different energies that, if we don't clear those out or get those moving, they don't go anywhere. So it was really interesting to see that. And I'm just so thankful that you allowed me the opportunity to try that out and be able to see that. And then, so since then, I believe since then, it's every day blurs, but I have done Reiki on another house. So that was super awesome. So one of my friends who's a realtor asked me to Reiki a house that she's working with. So really cool stuff happening. So, anyway, I appreciate you so much for being here. Appreciate our friendship and appreciate you always being my crash test dummy.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that follow-up on the Reiki and the finances that we
Yes.
talked about as well.
Yes. Stay tuned.
And
We'll have to do a second part to this as well, like we did on your podcast.
absolutely, I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.